What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and in this episode we'll be looking at backtesting the ICT Silver bullet strategy. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing that we want to do is look at the trades that ICT himself took using this strategy. So the first trade that we're looking at is this trade right here. So the first thing to note is this trade is between 3 and 4 a.m. So this is the AM session. He first got his fair value gap, which is right here. His stop loss should be right above the fair value gap here, and the target below this sell side liquidity, so somewhere here. So he was tagged in right here, and then the trade went all the way down to the target here. So this is one of the trades that he used to teach this strategy. Another example is this trade that he took here. It's between 10 and 11 a.m. So this is the London Open. We have our fair value gap here. He was tagged in with this candle right here. The stop loss is this yellow line here, right above the fair value gap. And then the target is this green line here, which is right below this sell side liquidity here. So this is another example of the trade setup that we're looking for. And then finally, one last example. We have our fair value gap here between 10 and 11 a.m. London Open. The stop loss is this yellow line here, right above the fair value gap. And then finally, our target, this blue line here, which is right below this current new week opening gap high. So these are the kinds of trade setups that we'll be looking for in our backtest. So before we go any further, I'd like to note that this strategy is not totally mechanical. There's a lot of room for discretion. What I mean by that is if you give this strategy to 10 people, you'll get 10 different results. So let me just show you two examples. So first, look at this trade here. The entry is right at the base of the fair value gap. But if you go to the previous trade, the entry here is not at the base of the fair value gap. It's not at exactly the same place as the previous trade. So this is in between the fair value gap. So that is one. Two, the number of pips here between the edge of the fair value gap and the stop loss is not consistent across the trades. So there's some room for discretion in this strategy, and that is where you'll get a lot of variations of this strategy online. So with this in mind, let's just go to some assumptions that I had to make when making the EA for this strategy. So the first thing, the minimum size of the fair value gap was not stated. So there are some fair value gaps that were found that were very small. It didn't make sense to me to include them. So I used a minimum of 3 pips. If the fair value gap is less than 3 pips, then it wasn't considered. The next thing is if the target was too high. So considering we're trading on the 5-minute time frame, a target of 100 pips, 200 pips is it sounds unrealistic. So any trade that had a higher target than 80 pips, we reduced it to 60 pips. So the next thing to note is there were trades in which no target was found. Consider a scenario where the price is the lowest it has ever been for the last 15 years. So that means to find the next liquidity zone, you'll have to go back 15 years. So in a scenario like that, I just used 15 pips because that was the minimum specified number of pips that you should target in any one trade. The next thing is if the stop loss was greater than 30 pips, then I reduced it to 30 pips. And finally, all the fair value gaps you'll see are in the same hour as the trading hour. So those are some of the 5 assumptions that I took when making the EA for this for this trading strategy. So let's look at some of the examples that the EA will take. So the first one is this trade right here. We have our fair value gap here, the target in the next liquidity zone, and our stop loss will always be 2 pips below the fair value gap. So the reason the EA didn't pick this liquidity zone here, or this one, is because if you take, for example, this price here and you minus the entry, you'll get that it's below 15 pips, and that is below the minimum required target for any one trade. So it kept on looking for the next peak until it got this one, which satisfied that requirement, and that is why it settled for that price there. Another trade, we have our fair value gap here. The entry is right at the base of the fair value gap. We have our stop loss 2 pips below the fair value gap, and the target is at the next liquidity zone, which is here. So this produced a beautiful profit. The next trade, here you can clearly see that we have our stop loss here, 2 pips above the fair value gap. We have our target at the next liquidity zone, and our entry right at the base of the fair value gap. So I have a couple of examples here. You can just pause the video and analyze them at your own time. The important things to note are entry at the base, stop loss 2 pips below the fair value gap, and the target at the next liquidity zone. So not all trades were profitable. So this is one that gave a loss. Here are 2 examples, one that was a loss and another one that gave a profit. And then finally, one last trade. As you can see, not all trades are profitable. So with this in mind, let's now look at the EA in action. So let me now shift to my MetaTrader platform here. And before we start the backtest, there's one thing that I'd like you to note. So I have my EURUSD chart here open in the 5-minute time frame, and I have another symbol here, the EURUSD New York. So the difference between these two, if we just look at them. So for example, let me take the time here at this particular candle here. It's 9 a.m. And if I go to this other chart, the normal chart now, EURUSD 5-minute, the same candle here, you'll find that it's 3 p.m. So the time between this EURUSD on my broker's time and this custom symbol is 6 hours. And the reason for that is if you go back to the ICT videos, he always insists that we use the New York local time. So what I did, I went to this software here called TickStory, and I downloaded the data with the New York local time here. So for our testing, we will be using this this New York local time here, this custom symbol. So with that being said, let's start the test and see how the EA works. So the first trade that was taken is this one here. The trade is between 10 and 11 a.m. We have our fair value gap here. The stop loss is 2 pips above the fair value gap. The pending order is right at the base of the fair value gap. And the target was found using this sell side liquidity here. So we were tagged in into this trade at this point here. And as you can see, that trade was profitable. We have another trade here, but it expired after the time, after the 11 a.m. time, so it wasn't taken. We have another trade here, which was a loss. Same thing, fair value gap between 10 and 11 a.m., stop loss 2 pips above, entry at the base of the fair value gap, and the target is determined by the sell side liquidity at this point here. And the trade expires after 11 a.m. So this is how the EA works. As you can see, some trades are profitable, some are not. But you get how it works. Now let us see the results of this EA. And this is a test between 2002, the 6th month, to April this year. So these are the trades that are being taken. And we are on the EURUSD. So let's just wait for the results. So as you can see, between that period that we have tested, seems profitable, profit factor of 1.2, and the curve is not bad. But that does not tell the whole story about the EA. For example, if I test it for the last 5 years, from 2019 to the current period, we get very different results. So I'll just speed up this part. We just want to get results. So as you can see, the 5-year backtest tells a very different story. This drawdown right here is enough to kill anyone's morale. But this is not the end of the story for this strategy. So we have only tested one currency. We have only tested one time frame of the 3 that ICT recommended here. So you can still test 3 a.m. to 4 p.m. the London Open. This is what we have tested, and we can still test the PM session. We can also go to the, I think, 26 remaining currency pairs and see how the strategy performs there. So there are a lot of tweaks that we can do also to the strategy. We can try using the fair value gap from the previous hour. So there are a lot of things that we can do to try and tweak this strategy to make it profitable. If you'd like to see a video about that, then I'll leave a comment. If you'd like to see the strategy tweaked and you think there's something that we can add or remove that will make it profitable, then definitely leave a comment. If you like this kind of content, then be sure to leave a like, and see you in the next one.